The more cars you drive, the more high-performance driving events you attend, the more you start to realize that magazine specs, especially horsepower, is just one reference point. You start to understand that you don't need a lot of power to have fun. If anything, usually more power a car has means you'll spend more on consumables like tires, brakes, and gas at the racetrack.
Horsepower is such an insatiable thing. You just want more and more. Instead of going down this path where you'll just want more and more power all the time and ending up wanting newer cars, because let's face it, newer cars are almost always faster, you have to start appreciating factors that are not quantifiable in numbers. Usually the people that drive S2000s appreciate and understand those type of things.
Unlike many cars of recent, the S2000 is very pure. I believe cars that don't have too many flamboyant surface treatments, but stay true to good proportions, age really well. Look at just how low the hood line is from the wheel well. Not only is this possible due to having that racy in-wheel double wishbone suspension, you couldn't make a car this low now even if you wanted to, due to pedestrian safety standards. To find out more on what car designers deal with on a daily basis, check out my interview video with Harry from Hyundai.
Now the interior. There's a lot of passion here. A lot of passionate love and hate. First of all, I love the simplicity. Every controllable items are literally at your fingertips. And they're not some weird touchscreen, they're all tactile buttons. Brilliant. And the seating position, well, a 6'1" and with the fixed steering wheel, it's just really hard to get comfortable. And also the amount of room between my head and the headrest, if I were to get back-ended, I'm afraid that there's going to be a huge whiplash. It's as if this seat was designed to be used with a helmet. For me, without modifications, I won't pass the broom test for any track experiences. So if you're a bigger person like me, it's something to consider. Nowadays, a large corporation like Honda has a lot of marketing data. They know that you don't really want to be involved in a driving experience, and also they know that consumers prefer features like Apple CarPlay over having a manual driving transmission. They have to abide by the facts to make cars that sell and ultimately make profit to stay in business. But what about the days when Honda was a little bit more naive? I mean, they built cars like the NSX and this S2000 to really show how capable they are to the world, and I really admire that. If the NSX was the ultimate performance car, this S2000 was built for ultimate driving joy. Which is part of the reason why I insist on keeping the soft top. The car is really fun whether you're driving it fast or slow, and you can't really say that about a lot of cars. To give you an answer for why I drive this 15-year-old car, it's because simply Honda cannot make this exact same car again even if they wanted to. I mean, obviously there's a lot of mechanical aspects, but even simple things like this really slim hood line that gives me a great view out forward. Due to new pedestrian safety standards, you can't design a car this low anymore.
I've already mentioned the low hood height, but basically, in order to do that nowadays, you have to have explosive that prop the hood up when you hit a pedestrian so that they land graciously instead of dying from an impact. The two cars I know of that have these explosives are the Jaguar XK and the Lexus LC. Not exactly cheap, are they?
Now the engine. Everybody knows about the Honda VTEC, so I won't bore you to death there. But essentially, it works like when you're running and you're gasping for more air, that's exactly how a Honda VTEC works. The car's engine, the heart, it's breathing for more air the harder you run it.
You can feel that in the way this motor responds and sounds. The original design had the bore being bigger than the stroke, and this is usually a very good blueprint, as it shows intent to speed up the response time on the throttle. Just ask any Formula 1 team. In fact, if you strap on a fancy individual throttle body, this motor is essentially half a Ferrari V8. The short stroke and the crisp response from the throttle by cable, this engine is just a masterpiece. Due to current emission standards making it extremely difficult to do valve lifts on the exhaust side of things, this naturally aspirated 4-cylinder is also something Honda cannot reproduce. What a shame. And this motor is ready to be thrashed at the track with no additional parts, unlike my BRZ, which required an oil cooler.
Now, its engine is not the only Formula 1 derivative. All 4 corners of the suspension is double wishbone setup with alignment capabilities. No company with the right mind would make cars like this anymore due to double wishbone suspension being expensive to produce and eating into a lot of the interior space.
I'm not an engineer, so I couldn't tell you all the benefits of a double wishbone suspension, but I feel that it provides excellent lateral grip, and because the spring and the damper assembly sits at an angle, the car feels as if it has a very low center of gravity.
Being a front midship layout, the front end goes exactly where you point, but sometimes the rear end could be a little bit unsettling, especially over bumpy surfaces. And this transmission, man, when you combine it with the extremely short Honda clutch and a very clean feeling into each gate, it's one of the best manual transmissions ever made.
And even if this thing is a 15-year-old convertible, due to a very clever X-frame design, its rigidity is not like a wet noodle. You can tell the Honda went for no compromise driving experience from this really wide center tunnel. It was an integral part of the chassis rigidity, and they weren't afraid to take away the interior space. If there is one letdown, it's this early generation electric steering. The amount of information you get is only okay.
The Honda S2000 is an incredibly fun car that hits you high on all senses. The father of this car, Uehara-san, must be really happy to see all the fans gather up in Southern California and also the rest of the world to commemorate this beautiful machine. I'm really looking forward to improving my driving skills with this car, and as an enthusiast, I wish more manufacturers would make cars like this, more with their heart and less their heads. Thank you so much for staying till the end of the video. Please subscribe and stay tuned for more content.